Hey everyone, welcome to Views from the 902. This is where our interview segment of the show is, and we have a special guest with us today who is a man. If you're familiar with the Toronto hip-hop scene, he needs no introduction. He is a two-time Juno nominee and a two-time Much Music Video Award nominee. We have with us, welcome to the show, Solitair.
Greetings out to the East Coast. How y'all doing?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good.
We're good.
Yeah. So open up.
Amazing.
So I touched on that a bit about two-time Juno nominee. So as a two-time Juno nominee, is there an award you've won or have been nominated for that is most special to you? And if so, which award or nomination would that be?
I won the Producer of the Year for the Canadian Urban Music Awards. If you're gonna ask me what year it is, I'm gonna say I don't remember. I think it might have been like 2001. So that was great.
Wow.
That was, I was coming off of producing Bacardi Slang and Easy to Slip at that time.
Yeah.
I was nominated for the Much Music Video Award for Best Hip Hop Video for Easy to Slip. As far as I'm concerned, maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I think I always got cheated out of winning. But, it goes without saying. I think I can't remember who won that year, but I think those two nominations were. Well, the victory, the Canadian Urban Music Awards Producer of the Year, I guess that would be my favorite since that's the one I won, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, I saw you released a new single a month ago with Keisha Fresh. So what would you say is the most different thing about releasing music in today's industry compared to when you first started releasing and producing music?
Besides everything? I think, the fact that, as a producer, I was obviously making beats, but I was not familiar with the whole process of recording and mixing. And over time, traveling and going to different studios and learning more about the industry and learning more about the technology in the studio, now I pretty much oversee my entire process from the production to the mixing, to the mastering at my studio. Shouts out to my studio, 4 Sound Media, with my partners. I think the fact that I can produce a song today and have it be released to the world within 24 hours is probably the most significant difference between when I was releasing music back in the late 90s, early 2000s to now.
Oh, yeah. Especially in the age of streaming we're in right now, too.
So
yeah, exactly.
To touch a bit more on your producing credits, one of your biggest one was Choclair with his album Ice Cold. So that album had 4 tracks that were certified gold. So how did it feel?
4 tracks you produced.
The 4 tracks that you produced, they went gold.
Yeah.
So how does it feel to have contributed to that?
That was an amazing moment in time because it was like he was the first one to sign a big Canadian deal in the country, and the album went gold in 30 days. So like we really got swept up in a whole whirlwind, and it was really a family affair in terms of how that came together. Like you said, I produced 5 tracks on there. Cardinal produced 5 tracks on there. Socrates did a couple. So it was all in-house, and the energy was just, it was just a great vibe to be around. So it's definitely one of my most memorable. I'd say that's my first professional album. Because that was my first placement, was doing those records on Choclair's album.
Oh, for sure.
And
yeah,
I don't know if this transfers over for you, like maybe Choclair is your favorite artist, but if it isn't, who is your favorite artist that you've worked with in your career?
That's a good question. Who's my favorite artist that I've worked with in my career? Ooh. I'd have to say, working in the studio, there's some R&B artists that I've worked with, like Julie Black and Glenn Lewis, and they're incredible when you're sitting in the studio working with them to see their talent level. Melanie Durant is another one, obviously Cardi, but I mean, you know what I would have to say? One of my favorite artists to work with in the studio nowadays is this artist that I work with. He's become a friend and a brother of mine, Drew James.
Oh wow.
Drew James, and he's it's for if for only one reason, because we have such a good shorthand. Like, I record and mix all his material, and he's so devoted to the craft, and we've been working together for like the past 5 years.
Oh yeah.
But I'm sure I'm missing a bunch. Like, Nina Sky was incredible. Working on Nina Sky's project, that the unreleased project, at least anyway. And my boy Cypher Sounds, we did a lot of production during like the mid 2000s. We were working on a lot of music, and so that was some good times. So there's a few. Oh, right. I'd have to really sit down and reflect on that.
Well, while we're on the topic of Canadian hip hop here, and we talked briefly about the Juno Awards before, I want to know what your thoughts are on the Juno Awards you might have seen. They're splitting the Rap Recording of the Year award into multiple categories like Rap Album/EP of the Year and Rap Single of the Year. With hip-hop already breaking ground as being added to the televised Juno broadcast, as you know, because 1998 they didn't televise it, and there was that whole thing with Northern Touch and the Rascals. But of course, in 1999 they started televising that. But would you say now that they're splitting up even more hip-hop categories, introducing them at the Junos, that it's even more groundbreaking?
I mean, I think it's an indication that they're trying to keep up with the culture.
Yeah.
I think there's still obviously ways to go, but I think there's more people who are further up the food chain that are influencing the decisions about how the Junos deals with hip hop and and honors it as a genre that's worthy of being recognized on a national stage like that. So I think it is important. If there's anything that's kind of necessary for the infrastructure of the Canadian music industry pertaining to hip hop, is there's got to be like some kind of, dare I say, a star system. So the fact that they're kind of breaking it down to give lesser widely known artists the opportunity to kind of come up and, in different stages, I think it's an important part of developing artists to be ready for like the mainstream commercial success. So I think overall it's a good thing, and it allows more diversity in the style of hip hop that gets exposure.
Yeah. I want to know another thing. We talked about your production before. When Lil Wayne released The Flyest, and it was widely confused for a Dr. Dre production, what were your thoughts on that?
That was a bittersweet moment because we didn't get to capitalize on it, and the Flyest was actually a song. I took his vocals and made it my song, because after it was released, obviously once it gets leaked, it's like that's pretty much it. You know what I mean? And it wasn't like, it'd be different if it leaked and it was finished. It leaked and there was no chorus on it. Somebody dropped, they dropped voice note, like they dropped tags all over it. So we didn't even get an opportunity to let it be known that it was myself and Cypher Sounds that made that beat. So it was one of those things where it's kind of like you get validation personally, but the public profile of getting like, oh, that wasn't Dre, it was like these new cats. You know what I mean? Like certain things that we would have been able to capitalize on had there been social media back in those days. You know what I mean? But it was a lot. We had a lot of near misses like that. So it was interesting.
I do have a question for you. Would you say that The Flyest or any other specific release was the most memorable to you? If it isn't The Flyest, which one was it?
For me, I think for myself, it'd have to be Easy to Slip, because that is the song that people really resonate with to this day. And it's like, it's over 20 years old, and it still is the defining song of my career, because the truth of it still reflects today's reality. So I would have to say that between that and Bacardi Slang, now obviously I have a body of work and received awards and done a lot since then, but it's hard to not hold your like that. Those are like my first records as far as like getting that kind of acclaim from my peers and from the industry. So I would have to say that those are my two favorites.
You seem to be figuratively dipping your toes in many facets of entertainment, so producing, making your own music, or even in charity for that matters. But one of the things that you're doing is you've purchased the studio Sound Media alongside
Yep.
Sound Media, excuse me, alongside three other producers. And would you say
Right.
that it's made it easier for you to record music and now collaborate with other artists since you've done this?
Oh hell yeah! That was part of the reason for me getting into that partnership. Before I invested in that studio, I had bought my first home studio. I took over from one of my partners, who's a partner at Four Sound Media Studios right now, Cortez. So that's how I started, and I just had a studio in my apartment, living at Eglinton and Weston Road. You know what I mean? And just kind of hustled my way, and then the opportunity for us to take over a full professional recording studio at its own location. Definitely changed my ability. It grew my ability to diversify and be able to mix properly and be able to like get into like recording and doing like scores for film and television. So it has absolutely increased my ability to collaborate with and bring artists into the space. You know what I mean? That they don't have to be afraid of of the ops because it's in the West End. You know what I mean? Like it's in a neutral area. So it's definitely been a great thing for all aspects of my career.
Yep. Well, I saw on your website as well, you have a few other things alongside a few charitable organizations. So as an artist, what's it been like for you working with lots of these charitable organizations out there?
I think it's important. I think I work with this organization. It's called FU. The F stands for Forgiveness, the Forgiveness Project. And my role in the FU project is as the program manager for the jail program that we run at various institutions in Toronto. And part of our beliefs, part of the discussions that we have when we talk to young men about anger management and conflict resolution and the identity, the male identity, what does success look like, and what does forgiveness look like in your life. And one of the things that we say is, as a mentor, as a public personality, as somebody who's considered a celebrity or legend, it's important to give back. It's important that you show people a different way of doing things. You know what I mean? And that's really what informs my charitable work.
Yeah. As a rapper and performer, what would you say the biggest challenge has been since obviously COVID hit in March of 2020 and since we've been hit with the pandemic?
No opportunities to perform and practice getting better on stage, which is most modern hip hop artists. That's their biggest shortcoming is their stage show.
And I do have a question. So, of course, you're very popular. A lot of your music has been well certified. But for anyone who maybe hasn't heard of you or hasn't listened to your music before, where would you recommend that they start? Like, what song would you recommend? Maybe what album?
I think to get a full scope of my career, I started off getting more acclaim for my production work. So I would say, go back to Chocolair's first album, you can go back to my first single, which was a song called Silver Surfer that I produced and co-produced with one of our up and coming producers at the time, a dude by the name of 12 Inch. He had a beat machine that I was able to go over there, and he showed me how to use it, and that's how I learned that. I learned how to produce on various machines, but that was my first official single on vinyl. So that was pretty cool. And I released a few singles after that. One called Listen, No Doubt. And then I Chocolair's album, produced a bunch of tracks on his album, and then I produced Bacardi Slang. So I think if you go to the Four Sound Media website, there should be a Spotify link to some of the work that I've either my releases or work that I've mixed and done production on.
Oh yeah.
And I do have another quick question for you. So if someone were to come up to you or someone were to ask you and tell you that they wanted to become a rapper or grow up to be a hip hop artist, what would be a piece of advice that you give them to get them started down that road?
Practice every day. It's got to be, if you have to love what you're doing, you have to love the craft, and you have to realize that if this is an artistic endeavor for you, like if you really want to pursue a career in music, it's got to be a lifetime calling. You know what I mean? Like some people, I'll put it to you this way: everybody has their own goals and purpose, but for me, if an artist or somebody who says they want to be an artist comes up to me and the first thing they say is they want to be famous, that's an instant turn off for me. I'm looking for somebody who's like, yo, I'm an artist, and this is what I want my message to be to the world. And whether if it's about, it doesn't necessarily have to be about positivity or partying or whatever it is. It just has to be authentic to who you are. And I think that has to start from authentic place in terms of being an iconic artist. You know what I mean? Like you can't be trying to chase trends. You have to be trying to innovate and make yourself relevant to the current audience in a new way. And that's as easy as it sounds. That's what makes it so tantalizing, and people think they can do it, but not many do.
Oh yeah. Well, on this note here, I know we talked a bit before about the song or single you've produced that's been the most memorable to you, but do you have a favorite song or a favorite album you've produced?
Favorite song that I produced? I released a song called Come True where I was singing instead of rapping, and I really was in a envelope pushing kind of frame of mind. I would have to say that experience of doing that and kind of taking that calculated risk as an artist is one of my prouder moments, and I enjoy producing that record.
Oh yeah.
And we have one final question for you here, Solitair. So for people wondering, what does the future hold for you? What, like in terms of music, new releases, or any other like charitable endeavors or producing endeavors?
I will continue to be releasing new music. I actually have a new situation that I'm developing. I've always been recording, even though I haven't necessarily released music over the past few years, because I've been more so doing behind the scenes recording, artist development, that kind of thing, and working with the FU project. But in the meantime, I've always been working on music, and I will continue to be releasing more new music with more videos and kind of just. And again, I'm not undertaking it to say that I'm going to be the next number one big, the next Drake or whatever the case is. I'm definitely an OG, but it's more a matter of my passion for music and my passion for hip hop, and and trying to reflect a different perspective on our community. I think it's my obligation and creative calling to do that. So there'll be more music, and I'll continue to do more community work and mentorship, and and doing the best that I can to help my community and continue to release great music.
Well, that's great, and we thank you once again for your time today, Solitair. It's been great to sit down here and chat with you.
Thank you.
Amazing. I appreciate that, man. Thank you. Send me a copy of it so I can hear it.
Yep. Oh, yeah, I'll send you a copy of it. And I mentioned it earlier on in the interview, folks, for those listening to the show right now. Just last month, Solitair released a single with Keisha Fresh. We're going to play that for you right now. We're going to go to some quick commercials, then we'll be back with that song. So once again, thank you to Solitair. We're going to go to some quick commercials, and we'll be right back. Thank you, everyone.
Peace.